Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another GEG UK webinar. And as you can see, delighted to be joined this evening by the EdTech legend and genuine stand-up guy that is Jon Neale. Good evening, Jon.
Good evening, Darren. I can't believe you introduced me without making a reference to my height, because I feel like whenever I'm on anything, that is, I think because you are a man of similar stature, you know, arguably two of the tallest, certainly men in British EdTech. I think there should be a global EdTech height off. But yeah, thank you for having me. Really pleased to be able to share and learn and all of that good stuff with the Google Educator Group here in the UK.
And not just in the UK as well. We've got people already joining us in the chat from all over the world.
Wow.
Which is amazing to see. Some people who are just making up words like gazillion eons. Mel joining us. Katie also wants to enter the height off as a very tall female EdTech GEG UK.
She is welcome. She is more than welcome, as always.
And some people feel that they look like a hobbit beside us. So there you go. You know, we're making everyone feel valued. Jon, for those people who don't know you, do you want to give us a little bit of a rundown on your
Sure.
Yeah.
First of all, that's probably a huge blessing for those people. But in case you are one of those people, one of those many people, I'm Jon, and teacher and school leader of 17 years. Very proud of my teaching profession. I think it is just brilliant and something that I'm always really excited. As much as it's been 2 or 3 years since I've been in the classroom now, I kind of have the former part in brackets. But yeah, I am a huge fan of all things education, supporting young people on their learning journeys. And before I had my role here at Quizizz, where I am head of growth for the UK, which is basically all about purposeful adoption. So finding ways that Quizizz can solve for problems and things that are happening in UK classrooms and how we can best help those become more enjoyable, purposeful learning journeys. So before that, I was, as I say, in schools of 17 years, have taught primarily PE and economics, not two subjects that are always going hand in hand. But for me, it was that was a magical combination. And then about
in current climate, that mixture of PE and economics, where you take Taylor Swift and the Super Bowl, and you can now study Swiftonomics, can't you?
There you go. So maybe I was just too early. I was it was kind of 20 years too early for that particular combo. But yeah, and then since 2014, I have really and I think it's important to say I haven't fallen in love with the idea of using technology. I was always looking for solutions, be they tech, digital, or otherwise, that would help not only my teaching colleagues, but also those students I was working with in my own school, and then through leveraging the power of different social media platforms and building community, was finding a way to share ideas in a way that was actually really like super positive and felt awesome. So I kind of became a Google Innovator and Google Trainer and Apple Distinguished Educator and various other things. But always the thing that most excites me, and I know that you're the same, Darren, the thing that most excites me is having those kind of micro conversations with someone who's been really trying to find a way to do something differently for their own sake, for whether it's time saving, whether it's a well-being thing, or whether it's also as is often the case for teachers, is finding a way to not only engage their students, but to engage them in a way that could empower and help them with their learning, not only whilst they're at school, but life outside of school, because I've heard that's quite important as well.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the Google Innovator program there, and applications are now live for anybody that's interested.
Get it in.
Yeah, exactly. If you're second guessing yourself and kind of thinking, should I or shouldn't I? Absolutely, you should, because I think all of us that have been involved in the Innovator program at any point and in any particular cohort have all said that it's just the best CPD that we've ever had in our lives, and has truly been life changing in terms of our approaches and our way we look at things as well. So great, to be able to work with similar minded people, like you say, solve those real problems that make a difference on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And I think that one of those things as well is, as I alluded to, is it is great when you're able to have those connections within your own school and your own trust, but when you can also find someone who might be on the other side of the world and you can share ideas with them and learn from them, and that's where I think that there's sort of this real magic that you can only get from a community like the Google Innovators.
Absolutely. So obviously, moving on from that, you had your opportunity, like you said, you did 17 years working in schools, in international schools. I was very, very fortunate to come to, I think it was the Back to School Summit in like 2017-18.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
You did a 25 in 25 demo that kind of really opened my eyes to things. And obviously, went on, COVID came along, Moat came along.
Moat, yeah. Had a great couple of years at Moat. Wonderful tool, great team there, trying to do some amazing things as well. So if you're not using Moat, then obviously jump on that tool as well.
Absolutely, and was an absolute life changer particularly during COVID for me as a language teacher, to be able to give verbal feedback really quickly and easily to students. But now obviously you're working with Quizizz.
Yeah, and
head of growth of the UK.
Yeah, and that's been great, Darren. And I think one of the reasons that one of the reasons I'm really excited and have been really excited and continue to be really excited about being on the team at Quizizz is they've already got a wonderfully successful team in the US in terms of being able to have a really far-reaching impact. So I think it depends on who you speak to within the Quizizz team, but certainly over 80% of schools in the US have some sort of Quizizz footprint. And when you consider the size of the US, that is quite a lot of schools. Obviously, what that doesn't mean is 80% of teachers are using Quizizz, but I think that there is a real that the impact that Quizizz has been able to have over there, and as we'll see, and as we'll share over the course of this session today, is Quizizz is more than just quizzes. So I think that that's one way that certain districts and schools and educators in the US have really been able to find those ways that it works for them and for their community. And I'm really excited about bringing that to the UK. Oftentimes if I speak to someone, I had the privilege of going to a couple of FE conferences last week, and there are inevitably one or two tools that Quizizz does get compared quite readily to. And if you like 3 or 4 features, then those are wonderful tools to use. If you want to take learning a little bit further, then I'll be able to share some of those options and opportunities with the rest of the group today. And there's also some really special initiatives that Quizizz are offering educators in the UK.
And I think it's brilliant. I've been using Quizizz myself on and off for actually probably since COVID times. But revisiting it again more recently and noticing the changes in terms of the amount of tools and the amount of approaches that are available. Like you say, when you coming back to that innovator program point, when you come up with a concept, you come up with a product or a solution, quite often it's very easy to name it exactly with what it does, and then it evolves. And it's really important for us as educators that actually we take a look under the bonnet and don't just assume by the name, but actually do take that time to delve in. And finding the time can be difficult, but hey, yes, AI can help us with that, right?
Yeah, I've heard of AI, and I think as well. Do you know what's really interesting is it's almost become hard to think of sort of life pre-AI. It's only really, I mean, obviously AI has been around, but I think we really only sort of collectively almost imagine AI as when ChatGPT launched. Obviously, AI has existed for many, many years before that, but for whatever reason, the timing was right. Obviously the way that they went from 0 to 100 million users in the blink of an eye means that there was this huge appetite. And I think, again, as we'll see, one of the things, because I started doing a couple of bits and pieces for Quizizz in the springtime of last year, in a part-time capacity, mainly to help a good friend and now colleague Kyle Nemes, who I'm sure is glued to this webinar. If he's not seeing it live, then he'll be watching it later. To kind of help Kyle and to learn from Kyle as we were looking to expand things. And there was always an interest in how Quizizz might use and utilize AI to supplement what it was currently doing. But at the same time, Darren, it wasn't the sense of desperately trying to get something out there just because they wanted to say we have AI. And I remember when I went to ISTE, had the privilege of speaking to someone called Tony Vincent, who I've admired for a long time. And I remember that he said to me that his biggest takeaway was speaking to Sandeep, who was who'd been the lead for Quizizz AI, and he said that he was blown away by not only what was available in beta, but the vision of him and his team to actually really do something that was going to be what we hope still is going to be really revolutionary in terms of its offering.
Well, Aileen disagrees. She thinks it's all going to blow over.
Yeah, it's probably just a fad, right?
Yeah, Abid thinks it's getting quite boring already. But hopefully you can change our minds, John.
Maybe I can. Maybe I can with a couple of choice F words. I think I can do okay. Excellent.
Was that sort of like formative assessment, that sort of thing?
Well, that is certainly one of them. But free is also a good. Free is also a good word. I've heard that. And I've heard that. Yeah, forever is also another one, which is pretty good when it's heard by all of us. So I'll be able to put that into some context.
Brilliant. Should we dive in and take a bit of a look?
Please do. Yeah. Well, I'm all ready to share.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So, what I'm going to be taking you through today is the essence of what Quizizz is. And as I just alluded to, there is something for schools in the UK that has just been launched, which is called Quizizz Free for Schools. Now, that is all-encompassing of every educational institution within the UK. So that includes what we would call here as FE, sixth form colleges, but also going into HE as well. I'm going to come to it in a few sort of minutes, but we have already a nice active online community where people from all of those sectors are sharing. The three kind of pillars of the Free for Schools is that you get access to Quizizz AI, that you can access for free. You can access the millions, tens of millions of resources that educators from all over the world have already created that are there accessible on the platform for you to what we call teleport into your quizzes and your activities. And then the other part of that as well, Darren, is that up until January of this year, with the free version of Quizizz, you would have access to what you would probably think of as like traditional quizzing features. So multiple choice, you might have a bit of an open-ended question. You could throw in a drawing question. So there was an element of higher order thinking. And you could also have a poll. But now, and what I'll do here is I will show you. So we actually have within Quizizz, if I'm creating from scratch now, you will see that we have all of these question types are now available. I'm just going to go ahead and hide this just to maximize everything that you can see on my screen here. So you have all of these here. So you've got 12 different, what we have termed, they are assessment question types. Everything from the typical multiple choice, a bit of a drop down, categorization. You'll notice if you're a STEM teacher that there are some exciting opportunities with math response and with graphing. And we have something down here which is in beta, which is comprehension. So that kind of does what it says on the tin. If you import an article or a PDF, you can have students engage in a comprehension exercise. And that can either be something that you are generating the questions to test their understanding, or that can be AI generated. And then before we jump onto the library, I just want to kind of focus a little bit on these higher order thinking questions, because you were mentioning, Darren, that that a tool that was allowing you to use your voice as a language teacher was really helpful. And we've heard that consistently from teachers across the world. And what's great about Quizizz is, in addition to those typical question types that we have from an assessment perspective and more, we also have opportunity for higher order thinking. So we've got draw. You know, there's an excellent example here of someone drawing a leaf. You can take it further than drawing a leaf. You can have open-ended questions. And then we also have what I think is great with my kind of PE practical teacher hat on as well. Video response, super powerful. And you have audio response as well. One thing also to mention at this point, really valuable, is that you can also leave video and audio to supplement any written questions. You haven't got to leave the questions as text. You can have that supplemented with audio as well, and with video. And then down here, we have poll and we have word cloud. Hopefully, I think that they be self-explanatory for people on this call. Poll, certainly, just in case you're unfamiliar with word cloud. If you have like a prompt and your students respond, you get one of these nice graphics that's being displayed on the screen here, where you can see your student responses. And that's just a great point for them to be able to talk about. And then, as I said, Quizizz is not just quizzes. You can also build lessons. So you can import slide decks, be they Google Slides, PowerPoint, you can bring in PDFs, and you can convert all of those into a lesson. And then after however many slides you would like, you can leverage the question types from Quizizz to actually insert points of assessment and engagement for your class. Right. And by the way, please stop me if at any point there's anyone with a desperate question that needs to be answered. And so there are different ways. I'm going to jump back here, actually. There are different ways that you can create a quiz. Quizzes became extremely popular. As you say, during the pandemic, it was used very, very widely. And then since that, it's really grown because of its time-saving nature. So very often as a teacher, we might be thinking of, would really like to have that quiz or something to get my class as a nice starter activity, maybe a nice starting point to help with homework that I'm going to be setting for my class. So what we have here is you can search for quizzes on any topic. As a former economics teacher, you can see I'm particularly hot on opportunity cost. And I'm just going to click there. So I've already done this search, opportunity cost. And I can now use these questions as a reference. Maybe I'd like to say, oh, this is a good question. You know, I can think about something similar. But if I wanted to save even more time, you'll see that there's an option for me to add these questions into a quiz. So if I just click on a couple of these, you'll see what happens. They're kind of pinging to the bottom left of my screen. I can just hover my cursor over another quiz, and I can do the same. If I wanted to, maybe I can add all 8. And then I've now very quickly got this 10-question quiz that I've built up. If I wanted to go through a version of previewing it, you can see I can do that here. I can save the quiz, or I can open it in the editor, and I'll do that right now. What I can now do is I can review each of these questions individually. I can go through them. I could even scroll to the bottom, and I could start to add some of my own question using all of those question types that we've already spoken about. Once I'm ready for this and I'm ready to share with my class, I can publish it, and it would then be ready to go. I would give it a title. So let's just call it opportunity cost test. And I'm going to jump it into a particular grade. This is important. Currently, it is not localized for the UK. So you would basically have to add 1 to every grade level. So, for example, year 7 would be grade 6. But we are looking to make that happen sooner rather than later. But hopefully the free for schools will be more than enough of a compensation for that minor glitch in the UK school matrix. Okay, and then when that's done, I can add an image if I want. I can search, but for now, I'm just going to go ahead and publish that, and that is something that I can share with my class. So that took a couple of minutes, but you can genuinely create a quiz from scratch in a matter of like one minute or less, and you can push that out. And just like when we're going to come to the AI, which I'm sure everyone's very excited to see, everything that I just demonstrated, both in terms of creating the quiz from scratch with not teleporting at all, or leveraging that huge bank of millions of questions and activities that are already on the Quizizz platform, that can all be done using the free mobile app. And that is both as brilliant on iOS and on Android. I'm an Android user myself, and actually recently created a video to show how quick the creation of a AI quiz was. And it was a quiz about Usain Bolt, and actually the time that the quiz took to generate was less than the time it took him to run the 100 meters, which, as we all know, Darren, was 9.58 seconds.
Yeah, but he is getting on a bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure he'd quite be able to hit the 9.58 seconds now, but I'm still fairly confident that he could beat me by about 20 seconds. So we will now think about AI, and there are many ways in which we can leverage AI to generate some really awesome activities. One of those is if you already have a PDF, or you've got, as I mentioned previously, if you've got a slide deck or a PowerPoint, you will see that I can upload those as an existing document. One other thing as well that you might like to think of, and you can see that I've got it here, if you have any staff handbooks, or you have any sort of material that might not typically people would think as the most exciting things that they're going to do over the course of, maybe it's those sort of back to school days, or it's an inset day, you can generate questions from that sort of material to add an extra layer of, just in case you didn't feel like reading it, we're just going to check that you actually did. And you can see here, Darren, is that you are actually able to toggle this on. So if I wanted to have, in this case, it's just a generic employee handbook, I could have that when my students or when my colleagues are actually reading this and engaging in the activity, they can have the document on the one side with the questions on the other. I'm going to jump now into one other thing which has been very, very significant in terms of the popularity and the growth of Quizizz AI, is converting any YouTube video, I would say in brackets, that has a transcription, into a quiz. Now, there are different ways of doing that. And because we're on the Google Educator Group call, I'm assuming that most people are, as I am, a fan of using the Chrome browser. So you'll notice up here that I have the Quizizz Chrome extension. And what I can do is I can tap on that and it will open up for me. All right. And I'm going to choose a video that has a bit of length, because there's something to be said for this. So once the advert's finished, I'm going to show you exactly why this is super cool. And when I tap on the extension, I can choose the particular portion of the video that I would like my students to be assessed on. I can then choose their grade level. I'm going to put it at grade A, and I'm going to choose a 10-question quiz. And I can also have the video playing side by side, just like with a PDF. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and tap on Generate Quiz. I'm going to bring that back here so I don't use my train of thought. And as I say, all of this is also totally doable through the mobile app. You would sign in with your same account. So if you're using like Google Single Sign-On, if you're using Microsoft, if you're signing in with an email address, then you can do that. You sign in with the same account. And what's beautiful about that is if you create on a mobile, when you then sign into your account on the browser or whatever you use as your computer in the classroom, it's going to be there for you. So here I have my 10-question quiz that was generated in, I feel like that was about 15 seconds. It probably wasn't 100-meter pace, but it was certainly competitive over the 200 meters. And it's taken that original video here, and just with the Chrome extension, in a couple of clicks, it's turned it into this activity. So I can scroll down here and I can see that, yeah, that on the whole, that this looks like the right sort of question. These are the kind of things that I'm interested in. I am able to share this as is, but what I'm going to share with you now is Quizizz AI Enhance. What we just looked at was Quizizz AI Create, but with Enhance, I can actually either at an individual question level, for example, this one here, I can tap on the Magic AI button, and that's going to give me a few options. So let's just say, for example, that I wanted to replace this with a similar question. While that's loading, I'll just say, happy Pancake Day, by the way. I hope you're having a flipping good time, Darren.
I knew that was coming. 100%. Yeah.
So in that pause, there was enough time for Quizizz AI to basically take that question there, and it's replaced it with a similar one. So we've got here, what is one benefit of using technology in the classroom according to the speaker? And then it's changed it into, how does integrating technology into teaching methods enhance learning experiences? Okay, so I'm going to stick with that, and I'm going to apply changes. And then what I'm able to do now is, let's say that I thought, this is quite good. Like, I've got 10 solid questions here, but I'd like to have a few more because I want to offer my students the opportunity to have a bit of learning, which we as part of the platform, we have this option for adaptive learning. So if I want to add a few questions,
is that so that the learning doesn't fall flat like a pancake?
Precisely. So with adaptive learning, that's a great question. With adaptive learning, we're looking, so Quizizz is much more about the pursuit of mastery as opposed to just like the mastery of like 10 questions. So let's say, for example, that we through a combination of AI, leveraging all those millions of questions that are already out there, and also maybe making them ourselves, we had a bank of 30 or 40 questions. If we said, right, I'm going to assign 10 questions at a time, and I would like my students to aim for 60%, okay? If they didn't quite meet that mark the first time, then they wouldn't just be reissued with those same 10 questions and then trying to hit the 60% for those 10. They'd get a fresh 10 questions. But we can set those either with AI or through the other methods that I've just shared. We can actually make sure that they're all of a similar, that they're aiming towards a similar goal for the students. And then they would, once they hit that mark, I would see through a really nice reporting dashboard that we can see in just a second or so, how my students on their journey from getting from here to here, for some of them it might be that straight line, but for others they might have gone this way and others might have gone that way. But the point is that they all take that same enjoyment out of their learning and the safe knowledge that they have achieved the target that was set for them. So let me just go ahead and do that. I'm going to tap on the button here. And anything that I choose to click on or choose to put in here, if I'm feeling confident with my prompt craft, anything that I choose to do here will apply for the whole quiz. So I'm going to add some similar questions. It's going to give me 3. Let's see how we're doing. I think it's a packed house over on YouTube, Darren.
Absolutely, yeah.
Lots of great chat going on there. And so we've got 3 questions that I can think this all looks good. If I wanted to only choose a couple of them, then I can delete, for example, this one here, but I'm just going to save those changes and you'll see how quickly it is for me and for anyone else to actually grow this quiz. And I can also jump in here and I can import questions from other quizzes too. There are many ways that we can change things around. So something I had great fun with last week was thinking about how you can make it sound like an angry Gordon Ramsay. I'm not sure there's another version of Gordon Ramsay, to be honest, but like you are able to choose a specific tone or a theme that you would like your quiz to be asked in to maybe bring that learning to life just a little bit more. Right. I could also share with you this here, but I'll just kind of leave it as this is what you're able to do. So I can grab a URL and I would, just the same as you saw me do with the YouTube video, if I go back and I want to create a quiz from scratch, I can take any link and I can then convert that into a quiz. Okay, so I would tap on the generate questions and that would do that for me. That's really important because if you want to bring a little bit of topical news and conversation to your class, maybe you've got a BBC News article, or maybe you've got something from a trusted resource that you want to share, you can do that, Darren, like super quickly. One thing that I forgot to say, which I really like, is these are kind of by default going to go to multiple choice, but I can convert that into, let's say I'm going to go for a drag and drop. And this will be another one of the many, as we discussed, 18 question types that there are available. So then it would have the option for me as a student to actually drag the correct option from those 4 into the right slot. And I'm going to apply changes there.
That's what I like about this. You know, you've got that option on every individual question to just vary it up to make that whole experience that much more engaging, rather than it being kind of repetitive and, oh, here's another question in the same format as the previous one. Because, you know, you've got lots of ways of approaching to get the same output, haven't you?
Absolutely. And there are, you know, I think that one of the things which is really important to stress is that Quizizz does take learning as seriously as anyone else. In fact, I'd go as far as to say I think actually Quizizz and you can see from the question types and the pride that Quizizz takes in that, is I think Quizizz takes learning more seriously than like what I think you and I as educators would describe as learning. Takes it really seriously. I think that the kind of goal for the team is to, whilst maintaining that as our sort of like North Star, it's a term that I hear a lot, you know, is at the same time, there's nothing wrong with things being engaging and fun and topical and picking up on different things. For example, if you're running a live quiz, you are also able to throw in a few memes. Now, those can either be from like the sets that we have created in-house, but with a partnership that Quizizz has got with Canva, you can actually click a couple of buttons and in just a second, you are taken to a meme creation pack within Canva, where you can actually customize those memes to make them a little bit more relevant for you and your students there.
Yeah, I've seen it. And obviously, you know, one thing we should mention as well, of course, is Quizizz is part of the next wave of the approved Google Classroom add-ons as well.
That's true.
With the 30 additional ones coming through. So, you know, even easier integration with Google Classroom as well through that.
Yeah, you're right, Darren. And I think you know, it's definitely unofficial, but I think most people are saying it's the number one out of those 30. It's probably but no, but that's great. And we should also be noted as well that there is also a very solid integration with Google Classroom. That being said, there is no requirement for your students when they are engaging in a quiz or joining you for a lesson. There is no requirement for them to actually have their own account. They are able to sign in either with one of those names that's generated random. For example, you know, I'm looking at things around me, purple candle, you know, and you are also able to sign in with initials. And we're also looking at other ways to make that super safe and secure, in addition to also offering with our wonderful compliance team, looking to work as close as we can with schools, trusts, and more across the UK, just to make sure that everyone is super reassured by our very, very strong and rigorous approach to GDPR. GDPR is always a fun conversation, isn't it, Darren?
Oh, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of flipping brilliant, I will just share with you. So I've shared kind of from a link using the extension how we can start to generate quizzes using AI, but we can also do it using text. So if I want to, I'll do something really small. So create a 3-question quiz on pancake. Oh wow, pancake day.
Okay. Pancakes. Yeah. Pancakes.
So there we go. This is going to be, by the way, this is something that I will share with the Google Educator Group UK, and there will be spectacular offerings of merch for the winners. I think I'm really interested in pancake flipping techniques primarily, so I'm going to choose that as my 3 questions. And this reason I wanted to share this is for those people that, and I'm sure that is most people, are familiar with ChatGPT. What happens when you type the question is this is how the response appears. So you get to see the questions and the answers as they're coming out. I am happy with these. These all look great. Would you agree with that? The primary, yeah, I think so. Once bubbles form and pop on this, that's what I was doing wrong. That's why my pancake fell on the floor. But yeah, I'm going to take this into a lesson though, because that's what I said was possible. I haven't shown you how easy it is. The way that I like to do it super quickly is to tap on that create new question, and I'm going to click slide, and I'll then get this message to say what you're about to do is going to change the game. It's going to take that quiz and it's going to turn it into a lesson. Lessons, as I say, in case you missed it, can also be directly created from Google Slide decks, PowerPoints, PDFs, and anything like that you have. And what's awesome, Darren, with this is that I can start to create a lesson which is totally interactive, and I can put in sort of different prompts as well. So, for example, if I wanted to put a web page link in, I'm going to put in this because the Quizizz AI certification is hugely close in its parallels with Pancake Day. I'm not sure about that, but nevertheless, I am going to show you. So I can drop this in. And then when I share this with my students live in the class, they can then fully interact with the web page. Then they can move on to the questions. I am also able to, within here, let's say that I'm going to go for adding a new slide, and I'm going to choose multiple choice. And I'm going to go for, this isn't overly linked to Pancake Day either, but what is the capital of England? And using AI, this is why I wanted to share this with you. I guess I could have done what are some key ingredients of pancakes, to be honest. That would have been much better. But nevertheless, I can generate the options for this multiple choice question with AI. So hopefully it won't say sugar and lemon. It will say, there we go. So it's got London. For those of you who didn't know, the answer is London. And then I'm happy with that. And then very quickly, as you can see, I am able to create a really awesome lesson, which before I share it and make it go live, I can preview it and I can see exactly how the experience would be for my students. There are just a couple of things I want to share and that I will share with the Google Educator group. We have a Facebook group, which this is my Quizizz account, but I'll share it with you. Essentially, if you search for Quizizz UK on Facebook, you should be able to join. We're only just sort of starting there. We've just broken through the 100-member barrier, which is very exciting. And there's going to be lots of opportunities to see previews, to join in with the way that the product's developed, and also to share the way that Quizizz is working in your classroom. As I shared in that quiz, or in that lesson rather, brand new, there is a Quizizz AI certification. What I think is brilliant that Kyle and the team, Kyle and Arthi have done with this is that they have made this a legitimate, real, it feels like you've undertaken a proper certification. I know there are lots of AI things out there. I would really encourage you to do this, not only because you'll get a bit of extra insight into how we're thinking about AI at Quizizz, but also because you get to actually practice live some of the tools that are baked into Quizizz AI. And I know that some of the people on the call have actually already been through that process. And then just finally, because this is the group, the GEG UK, I know that we've got lots of people that are trainers that are really great at sharing things with their own communities. And I also know that that can be quite a time-consuming task. So also something that I will share with the group is this slide deck, which has lots and lots of slides, all of which are supplemented by GIFs or videos, or GIFs, if you say. Are you a GIF man, Darren?
Oh, hard G.
Yeah, I agree. And I do like my giraffes as well. But yeah, so this is kind of, if I were to, for example, scan down here, you would see that there is a really nice GIF here that demonstrates, in this case, it's the labeling activity, but it's the same for all of the different question types too. Just in case you're unsure, just in case you want like something to share quickly with your team, there are some great activities there. And I think that's it in terms of what I wanted to share, Darren.
I think it's really good. And, you know, you meant, obviously, you've shown the labeling option here, and you've also got the option for drag and drop and for the hotspot as well, which just makes me think of Richard Osman's House of Games and where is Kazakhstan? You know, if anybody's never watched that, really great way of being able to capture people's understanding from sharing an image and then asking them to drop the hotspots on there. But I think one of the things I really like from what I've seen from Quizizz is that the fact that actually this is really applicable to virtually any age group.
Yeah,
because it's, you know, right the way down to those youngest kids who you know will be using apps on tablets and iPads and things like that. It's so simple and easy to follow and engaging as you're doing it, that, you know, there are so many applications for this.
Yeah. And I think that's where it is really exciting, because I still have those conversations where, have you heard of Quizizz? Yes, I have. And I used it and I loved it. However, I've moved on to such and such a tool because it has a few more options. And I will often ask about that particular tool. And then we will, after just a matter of seconds, we will soon quickly both agree that actually Quizizz has, I was so excited I stepped off my chair there. Quizizz actually has many more options, and also just to really underline the fact that for schools in the UK, and this isn't currently, this is a forever, schools in the UK, colleges in the UK, universities in the UK, Quizizz is all the features that I've demonstrated today are free. The only requirement is that schools sign up, and I know it's been shared before, sign up at the Free for Schools link, and they choose their org in the org picker. And that is very simply quizizz.com/school. Once you have 5, that's the kind of tipping point. And then you 5 and anyone else that signs up will have all of that goodness on your account.
Brilliant and really, really helpful to just make that whole process so much easier for everybody as well. So I'll just pop that.
Thank you, Darren. Yeah,
for people, as well as the link to the Facebook group, which I popped in there earlier as well.
Thank you.
So really great to be able to share those, and lots of people in the chat being really positive as well. You know, about the experience they've already had, the fun that they're having with young people, but with adults as well, through CPD and things like that as well. So I think, you know, there's a huge amount of potential there. And really, you know, massively appreciate, you know, the work that you and the team at Quizizz are putting in to make this available to UK schools. What was the cost again?
Starts with F.
Not a fiver. No.
Yeah. It's so, yeah, there are 3 main pillars of the Free for Schools, and that is that you have that access to millions of teacher created resources. So it's not one of those by teacher for teachers that isn't by teachers for teachers. They are genuinely all teacher generated. You also have access to all of those 18 question types and converting those into lessons. And then you also have access to Quizizz AI. And at the moment, I am always watching, as I know you do, Darren, on various social media platforms, looking at how people are doing different things with Quizizz. I think that, you know, I could see that a couple of comments about working with adult learners, you know, and then as you mentioned too, but also it's very relevant for primary learners. And it's being able to find a different way of, and it isn't just a tool for teachers, it's a tool that admin very much, I think, could use to make things, as I say, that might be typically something that people aren't fooling themselves to jump into the latest PDF of the statutory requirements of X, Y, and Z. But maybe this is a nice way that they would be able to actually share it in a way that was, as I say, serious, but at the same time done in a way that is a little bit more palatable than just, can you read through this? And yeah.
I think as well, you know, to be fair, it really throws down the gauntlet to people like, you know, organizations like the exam boards who have said we're going to have online exams from 2030 in major exams and major subjects. There's already some in existence. And actually, you know, our current year 6s and year 7s, they're all going to be the people that have the choice to sit digital assessments at the end of their school career. And the more we can prepare them for that by getting them used to slightly different formats and slightly different question types, can only be a good thing, right?
Yeah, no, I think any way that we are providing different opportunities for young people to, and not only young people, for people to engage in their learning in a deeper, more meaningful way can only be a positive. You know, not to sort of go over the point too much, but the conversations last week with colleagues from FE, the capacity to empower their students to respond in a way other than having to use written text and responding with video. And I should say as well is that in, for example, maths questions, you are allowed to say to toggle on show your working, so students can upload images of what they've done in their exercise books. And then one thing that I have actually just shared to my screen, if you wouldn't mind sharing that, Darren, sorry, I just realized I didn't share the reporting tab. So this is really important. So for every quiz that you do, you get a kind of typical breakdown here. So these are the names that were generated by the kind of name generator. You can do it by individual students. So I could click on this particular student here and I can see their activity. I'm also able to see it by question. So the response for each question, an overview of the entire quiz, so I could see there that the kind of the progression of students. By the way, these blue ones are only there for those weren't actually questions, those were slides or something that didn't have a value attributed to it. And then something we haven't yet got for the UK, but I still think is exciting and is relevant to share, is that we are very much aware about the need for teachers to be able to, wherever possible, perhaps marry some of this content up with standards.
That's brilliant. And, I think, one of the other things that comes from that, I mean, I've been looking at that analysis perspective from myself, and you've also got the option to go in there and you can override any automated responses so that you can give partial credit if you want to go in and just double check from a student's perspective, right?
Yeah, and that because if you were to ask them anecdotally, how did you go, how did you get through this, then it might not be quite the same picture that you would see from actually looking at the results. And there are it kind of, as all tools do, that it definitely mirrors some of the interface that you would see from other tools in terms of, but I think that could only be a good thing. There isn't much of a learning curve in understanding the way that works.
No, absolutely. We have got a couple of questions, John, just to throw back to. Obviously, you mentioned that you can put the different question types into lessons themselves. Just to clarify, really, when we're presenting live in class as a lesson, obviously you can do that kind of like live and teacher led. You can do that asynchronously as well, can't you?
Yes.
So as they progress through, those interactive elements just pop up on screen and become available, right?
Precisely, and it depends upon how you want to run it as the teacher as well. So you can either do it so teacher can actually say we're not moving on to the next question until I say we're moving on to the next question. You can either set it up that students can answer at their own pace, which actually has merits both in the live classroom and also if things are being run at home. And because then you have that sort of the kind of collective or the individual pursuit towards mastery. And then I did notice that the last question that popped up on the screen there was about, I think it was relating to that when slides are shared and when you're doing it in the lesson, can you pause and put insert some of those question types for moments of engagement? The answer is absolutely yes. And in addition to that, you can turn any slide that you have into a live whiteboard, which is really useful. You are also able to, at any point, tap on the random name picker just to keep your students on their toes. And then it will, every student that's in your lesson will be on like a Wheel of Fortune style carousel, and it will just pick one name and then you can do whatever you would like with that.
It's brilliant. And, those little things just make life so much easier because it's you can go off and use Wheel of Names and things like that, but it's another little micro interruption that you've got to set up beforehand. You've got to have it on another tab, and this is all built in and right there, ready on a plate like a pancake, ready for you.
Exactly, just like a flipping good pancake. And and that is actually, so when quizzes are at conferences, that is a huge win with teachers, that random name picker. I can see as a few people have said that they enjoy that. And I can also see as well as a couple of queries have come through about schools that are on premium versions, and I will absolutely do my best to get back to all of those. There are, so just for people that aren't clear, there is still a premium version of Quizizz that will allow for slightly deeper integration of, for example, the things that you can do with rostering and with Google Classroom, etc. So there is still a bit extra. But I am very, very excited and confident that others will be too, by the stupendously generous Free for Schools initiative that we have. And I think as well, just to be clear, is I have said to the team at Quizizz, like, we need to be very clear on the other word in there, forever, and they are absolutely behind both of those. So anything I can do to sort of support and also to explain with a little bit more clarity the kind of difference between options, I'd be delighted to do all that I can. And as always, if there's anything that I can't answer, then I would pass it on to someone better equipped than I.
if that person exists.
Yeah, yeah. I think I probably work with about 100 of them every day, Darren. So yeah.
No, I think it's been really helpful to go through that, and thanks for your
Cool.
time this evening, Jon, as well. And
Of course.
what I would say, really encourage people to just get on and play, because it's very intuitive, very easy to do, and a lot of the features that you've mentioned as well. When you're deploying that to your class, you have a choice. You can have music on or off.
Yeah.
You can have the questions read aloud to the students from an
accessibility baked in. Yeah, that's a kind of, that's a big one too. And you can add, as I say, so in addition to that, you are able to add your own voice if that's something that you would like to do too, to read the questions. But actually, the read aloud is very strong.
Absolutely. I've been playing around with adding my own voice and voiceovers to questions, and also the leaderboard, which, if you do want to make it even more fun, well, then you can do, but you have that choice, and that's what I like about it. It's not baked in. You've got that option. So
yeah,
I think really worth exploring, and huge thanks to you and the team for making it available. Like I said, we've put the link to the Facebook group in the chat earlier on, so you can go back and have a look there. And we've also put in there the URL that you need to sign up your school as well. So huge thanks to everyone for joining us this evening. If people do have any further questions, they can contact you, right, Jon?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. It's just Jon, Jon @quizizz.com, or to kind of spark a wider debate. And as is always great with community, is if you jump onto to the Facebook group and you ask a question, that I'm sure that people there will be, as is just great about teachers, is always really happy to sort of help and to share. And I would think as well as to answer questions covering everything from particular question types and things that have worked to to the inner workings of, for example, how to take something from a quiz to a lesson, and what's been successful for them.
Fantastic. That's been brilliant. Thanks ever so much to everyone who's joined us from all over the world in the chat, and also to you, Jon, for taking us through those really deep and powerful, like you say, higher order thinking questions, and a huge range of opportunities to use with students. So big thanks to everyone, and we will see you again soon on another webinar. So it's good night from me.
And it's a thank you ever so much for having me from me. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, everyone.
Always a pleasure, Jon. Take care, everyone.
Cheers.